Thank you. A very warm welcome to BBC London. Coming up on the programme. Working with crumbling ceilings and sewage leaks, we take a look at the state of some of the Met's buildings.
So here we are in the instructor's locker room. We had a leak from the third floor, toilet water that came all the way down and ended up in their lockers.
They warn half the Met's buildings face closure without more money from the government. Also tonight.
What's this all about? That is not right.
Yes, what is this all about? We tell you what happened when a man was seen running across the Heathrow tarmac metres from aircraft. Plus, fuelled by his own experience, Jamie Oliver cooks up a new campaign to help children with dyslexia. And
this is Blue and we're at Hammersmith Fire Station. Blue's been spending quite a lot of time with London firefighters recently. Find out why later in the programme.
good evening to you. Lovely to have you with us this evening. First tonight, it perhaps raises questions about the state of our police force and morale when some of the Met's buildings have crumbling ceilings and sewage leaks. We know that the Met Commissioner has previously warned that up to half of them could face closure over the next decade without more funding. So could the force get more money in the government's spending review this Wednesday? More on that in a moment from our political editor after this report from our Home Affairs correspondent, Sonia Jessup.
We had a leak from the toilet system on the floor above.
Shoreditch Police Station is not in good shape. This bathroom's been out of use since March. Some of the ceiling removed over safety concerns.
The primary challenge, of course, is the systems are just so old and we keep patch repairing them, but really they need to be ripped out and replaced.
The trouble is, the Met says there's not enough money to do it.
Our people are having to work in an environment that they work despite the conditions rather than being enabled by the conditions. And I think, you know, that the impact on morale is incalculable.
David Matheson is giving us a rather grim tour.
So, imagine you've recently joined the Met, you're coming for your first taser training lesson. Way too small, appalling decoration, no toilets, no shower facilities.
This station's been closed to the public since 2017. The Mayor said at the time it was a tough choice to save money. But now, the Met says, such options are exhausted.
Actually, our buildings, we've sold a lot of them, but the ones that are left, half of them are in a parlour state. In a few years, many of them will be unusable if we don't spend more money on them. We can refurbish each police building once every 130 years. That's completely crazy.
The Commissioner's warned that without more funding from the government's spending review, up to half of its buildings could face closure in the next decade. Here at Shoreditch, the conditions are causing problems for the officers who now use the station for taser training.
It's really cold in the winter, it's really hot in the summer, it slows down the training. Leaks on the range and leaks in the toilets sometimes means we have to shut training.
So here we are in the instructor's locker room. We had a leak from the third floor, toilet water that came all the way down and ended up in their lockers.
David Matheson thinks what this station really needs is a complete refurbishment, but estimates that would cost around £30 million. He says it's a constant juggle, taking bits off these broken boilers to repair others around the estate, while hoping they can make do here without a backup.
If anything goes wrong with that, we're going to have to close the building because we have no backup.
So you won't be able to use the building at all?
So we won't be able to use the building. It means training will have to stop.
With Wednesday's deadline looming for the government to set out its spending plans, the Met is warning it can no longer afford to keep cutting back. Sonia Jessup, BBC London.
Well, our political editor, Carl Mercer, is with me. Hi there, Carl. This isn't just about buildings, but warnings about other things too.
Yeah, we've had a lot of warnings over the last couple of weeks. Mark Rowley, the Met Commissioner, saw him warning about buildings there, but he's been warning about a lot more serious stuff than that as well, saying, look, if he doesn't get the money he wants in the spending review, things like knife crime, violence against women and girls will go up. The rate of reform in the Met will go down. So clear messages from him, and that had been backed up by the Superintendents Association and the Police Federation today, both saying we need more money.
And sticking with, I suppose, the gloomy warning, it looks like City Hall is not going to get the money it wants for London either.
Yeah, this is interesting. During the mayoral campaign last year, Sadiq Khan's rhetoric was, look how things will be with a Labour mayor and a Labour government. We've got them now, but it doesn't look like City Hall are going to get the 3 key infrastructure projects funded that they wanted. The DLR extension to Thamesmead, the Bakerloo line extension to Lewisham and the West London Orbital. It looks like they are not on the agenda, which is going to be a very difficult conversation, I think, for Sadiq Khan and Rachel Reeves after Wednesday, if that is the case.
Yeah, all eyes on Wednesday. For now, Carl, thank you. Our political editor, Carl Messer there. You're watching BBC London. Plenty more to come tonight, including...
Charles Dickens used to live here. He died 155 years ago today. I'll be speaking to some of his family.
Now, there's been more than one person asking the question, what exactly was going on? It's after a man was captured on camera running across the tarmac at Heathrow near moving aircraft. Well, our reporter Alice Sallfield has been finding out more. So, Alice, what more do we know?
Yes, Riz, this unusual incident last night is particularly interesting because it was all captured on video. Big Jet TV is a channel that live streams planes landing at Heathrow Airport. And as they were filming, they caught a man running across the taxiway. As you can see, it looks like normal airport operations were still ongoing because the Air Baltic plane he's just metres from is moving. And then we see a plane actually landing in the black background. At this point, he's being followed closely. At least 4 people are chasing him. He seems to evade the people on foot, but a van then appears following him. And not long after, it stops and 2 men wearing high-vis get out and catch him. He's just behind the van here. Obviously, this incident raises lots of questions around security. We don't know what the man was doing on the taxiway or how he got there. We've spoken to the Met Police, who said they had a small role to play in helping to detain the man before normal operations resumed. In a moment, we'll see that, with a police van arriving to actually take him away. We understand from the Home Office that the incident is being investigated by its escort supplier, but when asked directly if the man was being deported, they said they wouldn't be providing any further information. Heathrow Airport has given us a statement, though. It says the incident was quickly resolved and that there were no delays to flights because of it. But despite not seeming to have much of an impact on passengers, no doubt Heathrow will be looking very carefully at how this was able to happen. Riz?
I'm sure they will. Alice, thank you. Next, the celebrity chef Jamie Oliver from Essex is famous for his cooking, but also his campaigns, notably getting schools to improve the quality of their dinners. Well, now, fuelled by his own experience, he's turned his attention to dyslexia and is calling for mandatory screening in schools and better training for teachers. He's been speaking to Tim Muffet.
I've taken advantage of...
I knew when I felt thick, stupid and dumb that I wasn't.
Made with super affordable ingredients for when you want a fragrant...
The dyslexic brain is not disabled, it's different.
Things are jiggling about. D's and B's are typical, S's and N's and numbers.
The British Library in London, a place which revolves around reading, something Jamie Oliver has always struggled with. He's here for a special screening of his new documentary, Jamie's Dyslexia Revolution.
When I was their age, absolute nightmare.
I didn't really want to make this documentary. This documentary sort of found me. You know, I started doing a couple of interviews on BBC Morning TV.
I'm dyslexic, so words to me have always been quite scary. I've always had a chip on my shoulder about it.
The response from the public was very, very powerful, very noisy, very emotional. Not just from kids, but from fully grown adults. I didn't even understand the size of the problem. The progress that we're trying to fight for now is a long time coming.
Who here is a parent of a dyslexic child? Yes! And do you all believe that change is needed now?
Yes! I just struggled all through primary school. Never could keep up with any of the others. You know, as I got older, the word, yeah, you're dyslexic was used. But I didn't get formally diagnosed until this process, like 3 months ago. Do you want to have a go at reading? Because you're probably better than me now.
Like, I knew things were bad when my own 6 and 7-year-olds were reading better than me.
I believe that the damage being done to children and the adults that grew from them, which is quite deep-seated pain and upset.
I felt stupid because I couldn't do the things that other children could do.
I was reading in front of the class. I just got something wrong and everybody laughed at me.
It then started to impact on his emotional well-being.
I'm going in there to represent all the kids, just like I did in school dinners 20 years ago.
So the two broad stroke things, the basic things that we need to get fixed, is appropriate contemporary teacher training for all teachers. Bridget has agreed to reimagine teacher training for dyslexia and neurodiversity from this September. So this is powerful, this is incredible, and I'm grateful. What we haven't got clarity on yet is how are we going to communicate and top up the teachers that are already out there on the front line. We need screening for every child in primary school. We need it because if we don't know who needs help, we can't deploy help. Cooking saved me. I started cooking in the kitchen for pocket money at 10. I had positive reinforcement at work, at home, but for the 25% of kids that are dyslexic and neurodiverse. It is a disastrous knock-on effect, and it can be fixed with that 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old child.
If a child's watching this programme or they're watching the documentary and they're dyslexic, what is your message to them?
If you go to school and come back 190 days of the year feeling stupid, thick, dumb, like you don't fit in, like everyone else is faster and quicker and better than you, please, honestly, like do not let the current system that judges you define you.
Tim Muffet, BBC News.
What a message. And you can see that documentary on Channel 4 tonight. Let's take a brief look now at some of the day's other news stories. A 19-year-old from Tottenham who is serving a 1-year prison sentence after having sex with a 17-year-old British girl in the United Arab Emirates while both families were on holiday has formally appealed to the ruler of Dubai for clemency. Marcus Fakana was jailed in December because the age of consent in the UAE is 18. A man's been ordered to pay a total of £4,600 for dumping an old bed by the side of a road in northwest London. It's part of Brent Council's crackdown on fly tippers. He was caught leaving the bed alongside other rubbish on Queensbury Park Road in March last year. And people in Essex reporting wildflower species over the past 3 years have reached a new milestone. 100,000 wildflowers have been recorded in the name of science. The project, Essex BioBlitz, relies on the public submitting their observations to help researchers with valuable data about climate change. Now meet Blue, one of London Fire Brigade's new recruits. His owner says he's happy to be adored and made a fuss of and is very calm around people. That's why he's one of 6 new wellbeing dogs to help firefighters after traumatic call-outs. A lucky Victoria Hollins has been to meet him and has the story.
Imagine a workplace where everyone's happy to see you, gives you attention and will probably feed you treats. Welcome to Blue's world. A well-being dog for London Fire Brigade.
Dogs are fantastic. They don't judge. They just come over, they give you a cuddle. Blue loves being cuddled. He loves a butt scratch. Firefighters and emergency services workers do see some terrible things, and they found that animals can really help opening up.
Lucy MacLeod is Borough Commander at Hammersmith and Fulham. She volunteered Blue, knowing how firefighters' jobs can often include traumatic events, difficult shift patterns and sometimes personal tragedy.
Our job is to make sure that we signpost them to the right people to get the right help that they need, depending on what the situation is. You do need to be tough, and you do see things that are not very nice, and you don't go home and tell your people at home about those things because you don't want to affect them.
Paw. Down. Paw. Paw. You need all sorts of tools to deal with mental health, and sometimes you come away from a job and you feel fine, and it takes a little while for it to actually start being processed. Having the dog as an icebreaker, people feel comfortable around dogs, and I think it just makes people just open up a little bit more, you know?
He's a friendly face, literally, that we can just sit down, have a chat with, and just it breaks down that boundaries for us and gets us talking.
London Fire Brigade has 6 newly qualified wellbeing dogs. They work across London's 102 fire stations. Staff volunteer with their own pets to give emotional support after a series of training and tests.
The noises in a fire station and the sounds and the smells are quite different to anywhere else. So the air brakes are really loud, the horns, the two-tones going off. They're allowed to notice it and then they need to recover really quickly, and he's really good at doing that.
Once training is complete, there'll be 10 wellbeing dogs, and the service hopes to recruit more in the future. Victoria Hollins, BBC London.
Aren't they great? Now, staying with animals for a moment, because I want to show you the live webcam of resident peregrine falcons at St Albans Cathedral, which may get even more viewers than usual. Let's have a quick look. Not much activity now, but because a chick hatched this morning and then a second this afternoon, and they're the first arrivals from parents Alban and Boudica this year. I'm not sure if that is Alban or Boudica. It was part of the second clutch after the first eggs were destroyed by someone in April. Hundreds of thousands are watching for one more to hatch, and I can confirm I was watching this earlier this afternoon and I did indeed see the 2 chicks. So there's one more, I think, egg under there. So yeah, keep watching the live cam. But right now, let's turn to author Charles Dickens, who famously wrote stories extensively about London. This was 100 years ago today, and the official opening of the Charles Dickens Museum in Bloomsbury, the only surviving house where he lived and wrote his books. Well, today, to mark that centenary, there's been a chance to meet some of his living descendants in some historic rooms. And that is where we can join Assad this evening to find out more. Hi there.
Riz, I'm in Charles Dickens' drawing room, would you believe, as it was in the 1830s, complete with original furniture, including that armchair, which we understand was one of his favourites. He used to enjoy sitting there in the evening in the corner of the room, penning some of the words to Oliver Twist. So it was a real thrill for me earlier today when I had the great-great-great-grandson of Charles Dickens reading some of Oliver Twist to me earlier. Watch this.
Of this festive composition, each boy had one porringer and no more, except on occasions of great public rejoicing, when he had 2 ounces and a quarter of bread.
How does it feel reading one of the most famous stories ever written in the room where it was written by your great-great-great-grandfather?
It does feel quite weird because I'm just a regular guy who happens to have a very, very extraordinary name. So my relationship is nothing but just wonder, and the fact that I'm related to such a man and that we share similar nose lines and things like that is just an absolute privilege, and it's kind of amazing, to be fair.
Hundreds of people came today to visit the only surviving London home and now museum of Charles Dickens. And today was special, not just because his family were there.
We have a brand new display at the museum. So this is a photograph from the 13th of August, 1870, so the year that Charles Dickens had died. And this was bidding on the items that he had left in his estate.
In nearly every room, which looks as it did in the 1800s, was another descendant of Charles Dickens. That's unusual. But what isn't is the feeling that you're standing in the house of a genius who was so much more than a writer.
He never forgot what it was like to be a poor and hungry child, and that informed so much of his work. He definitely managed to bring about legislation that has a huge effect on how we live today. A lot of the kind of acts that came into being, even if they happened after his death, they'd attribute it to Dickens's work.
So as well as writing some of the best novels in the English language, Dickens helped establish the likes of Great Ormond Street Hospital in London and change the way the poor and needy are viewed and treated in society. Something the 9 Dickens family members celebrated today with other literary fans. And as is tradition, where there's a family get-together, you have to have that family photo.
Come and smile for me.
Yeah, and I'm joined now by Emma Harper, curator of the Charles Dickens Museum, also assistant director here. Thank you for letting us be here. You've had an extraordinarily busy day. I've seen queues of people from this morning waiting to get into the museum, which shows Charles Dickens is as relevant today as he's always been.
Absolutely. It's been an incredible day. We've had over 1,000 visitors through the door. And I think, like you say, it just shows how relevant he still is. You know, he writes about characters that we still all know in our friends and families and off the streets, and writes about issues that still resonate with people today.
And the world over knows Charles Dickens for his writing and storytelling. What people may not be aware of, though, is what Lucinda Dickens said earlier about how much he helped to change society to the one we're in now for the better.
Absolutely. He was a great social reformer. And a case in point is The Christmas Carol. The whole reason he wrote A Christmas Carol was to promote and fight for the poor law reforms and to make them bigger and better. Originally, he was going to write a pamphlet, and then he thought, no, a novel will have more of an impact, and so it has.
And so it has. Now, you've got amazing items here. This one caught my eye a little bit earlier. It's called a reading desk. There's a bit of a story behind it.
Yeah, so Dickens used to act out his stories. He would perform them to crowds in theatres. And he started doing this from behind a lectern. And he was like, no, just floating head here. So he designed his own reading desk so people could see the full power of his actions and his acting.
And it's here in the museum. Now, 100 years ago today, the museum opened. Hopefully it'll be here for another 100 years. If people want to get down, how do they do it?
Yeah, we're open from Wednesday to Sunday, 10 till 5. And throughout our centenary year, we're going to have lots of exciting exhibitions and events. So you can keep an eye on our website, dickensmuseum.com, and our social media.
Emma Harper, thank you so much. Thank you again for letting us be here all day as well. It really is a terrific place, well worth coming down to. Back to you, Riz.
Thank you. Yeah, fascinating insight. Asad, thanks very much. Now, it's the hit Broadway show and most Tony-nominated play ever that's about to open in the West End at the Duke of York's Theatre. Stereophonic is set in a recording studio in the 70s and is a fly-on-the-wall look at a rock band's journey from breaking through, the journey to success and later break up. Michael Mackenzie met some of the people behind the production, including 2 Londoners playing the female leads.
Stereophonic is the record-breaking play following a smash hit run on New York's Broadway and receiving the most Tony Award nominations of all time. The production finally comes to the UK. The music for this production comes from Grammy Award-winning artist and former member of Arcade Fire, Will Butler.
It's won many awards already. It's a smash hit already on Broadway. What's that like? What's the feeling like to have a smash hit production?
It's delightful. No, I mean, like, have you ever had someone come up to you and be like, great outfit? It's like that, except it's like, great play.
And for the UK cast, they're very excited to be a part of this smash hit production.
Feels really exciting. It's an absolutely amazing show with such an amazing legacy. And I feel so lucky to be doing it. And it just gets better and better and better.
I concur. It's very exciting. And I feel very lucky to be doing it as well.
And for one of the cast members, he went all out to get the part.
I think I want to get this. So I immediately started trying to grow a mustache because I'd never grown one before.
It's the main requirement.
First protocol, yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and get some guitar lessons, get some singing lessons, and I think
this production has been so successful on Broadway in New York. You know, it's won countless awards. Do you feel like there's a pressure to deliver?
Yes. Yes, I think there is a huge pressure to. I feel a huge pressure to deliver. Like all we heard for ages was like the word Tony, so we were like, okay. And obviously, everybody else who had played our parts on Broadway had done an extremely successful job. So, yeah, pressure was the word.
How did you come up with the production?
I was actually planning on leaving theater altogether. Like, being a playwright, it's not always so lucrative. Like, this is an anomaly. This situation is very, very specific, but generally speaking, it's not always such an awesome life. So I was thinking, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore. But then when I thought that, of course, I got a grant to be in residence at a theater, and that grant came with the stipulation to write a new play.
Stereophonic runs at the Duke of York Theatre until September. Michael Mackenzie, BBC London.
Right, start of a new week and maybe a more summery one than last week. Let's ask Kate. She's here to tell us. What do you think?
I know, it was the first week of summer last week and it really did feel a little more like autumn, especially over the weekend, but it is improving this week if you're looking for something a little bit warmer. Now for today, it was fairly cloudy. We had quite a lot around first thing this morning, but a few cracks in the cloud though led to a little bit of blue sky through the morning, through the afternoon, more cracks in the cloud, which led to some hazy sunshine. So actually it's been a fairly settled day today, especially after all that rain on the weekend. So for today, the temperature reached around 21 Celsius and it's rising. Now you can see this big bit of rain here. That's moving towards us overnight, but as it heads south, it starts to lose its energy, it fragments. And actually we're not going to get too much rain. We will get the cloud through the night and maybe a little bit of light rain. Minimum temperature very mild, 13, 14 Celsius. So it does lead to a cloudy start for Tuesday. Now we still could get some outbreaks of light rain on that front tomorrow, but certainly not as heavy as it was further north. It will sink away southwards. Through the afternoon, we'll see the cloud break up. We'll get some sunshine. And actually, because of those sunny spells, the temperature just sneaking up a little bit higher on Tuesday. We're looking at a maximum of 22 Celsius. Now, as we head overnight, Wednesday, you can see this high pressure here. It starts to move away eastwards. Now, as it does so, it's dragging in some very warm and humid air from the continent, so the temperature will continue to rise. So for Wednesday, there is a little bit of cloud coming up from the south. With that, the humidity rises as well. Some sunshine and the temperature warmer still. We're looking at 24, 25 Celsius on Wednesday. Also, what happens on Wednesday, or really later on Wednesday and overnight, you can see this front moving towards us. Now, that could bring some heavy and thundery showers, but also it's dragging up a plume of Saharan dust. So if we get those showers on Thursday, which at the moment we're likely to, could leave you with some dirty cars as we head into Friday morning. Now, that will clear, however, by Friday. It looks like our peak in temperatures this week, plenty of sunshine, and we're looking at a maximum temperature of 27, potentially 28. Riz.
Wow. Kate, thank you. Now, I couldn't go today without mentioning there's a new voice joining the BBC Radio London family every Monday evening from 7. DJ and radio presenter Bobby Friction is bringing great conversation, big guests and music celebrating Asian London. 7 until 10 or catch up on BBC Sounds. But that is it for now from me. More on the news that the Brit Awards are moving out of London to Manchester for the first time in the ceremony's 48-year history on our website. Also there, some lovely photos showing deer returning to Greenwich Park. From all of us on the team, thanks for watching and enjoy your Monday evening. Bye-bye.